Welcome, I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon, and this is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halacha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 78 Seif 1 to Siman 78 Seif 7. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. We're talking today about Torah reading on Shabbat and Yom Tov, specifically Torah reading in synagogue. Kitzur is going to start out talking about who you should call up for the aliyah. So Torah reading in synagogue is divided into what are called aliyot, literally goings up. And for each one of those, someone is called forth to give the blessings both before and after the reading. So the traditional or a traditional practice is to call upon a kohen, that's someone descended from the family of the priesthood, for the first aliyah. And a Levi, someone from descended from the tribe of Levi, the larger priestly tribe outside of the Kohanim high priesthood, for the second aliyah, and then for all the others, up to the total of 7 that are read on Shabbat, to call someone from Yisrael. That's someone without one of those two priestly statuses. So the Kitzur is talking about what to do if there are additional people with some status that you want to honor with an aliyah. So of course you need 7 aliyah for Shabbat, plus what's called a maftir, an additional aliyah. But you can always add as many more aliyot beyond that prior to that maftir, the sort of special supplementary reading. You can add as many more as you want. So the custom is not to call a kohen after one or more Yisrael have been called, which is why the Kitzur basically says you can basically call up a kohen late in the order if the 7 required aliyot have been completed, or if there's some kind of separation like Kaddish, or special circumstances, reading from multiple Sifrei Torah, for example, that make it obvious that you're not diminishing that kohen's status. On Shabbatot, where we read a double parashah, there are more parshiot in the Torah than there are weeks of the year, so sometimes they are doubled. That also gives us the flexibility in the calendar to account for leap years on the Hebrew calendar. So for Shabbatot with double portions, we try to give them each their due and split it up roughly evenly, 3.5 aliyot for the first of the 2 parshiot and 3.5 for the second. The Kitzur covers what to do about certain specific passages that are read from the Torah. Numerous customs relating to reading of specific passages are related here. Sometimes a passage is considered to be a solid unit and should not be broken up. Sometimes a passage is to be read particularly quietly or particularly loudly. As a kind of prosody, that's your word of the day, prosody, P-R-O-S-O-D-Y. It's like word painting. It's making the music, as it were, match the lyrics. It's helpful to consult what's called a luach if you're in charge. I use this luach put out by the conservative movement, which has all the Torah readings and all the procedures for each service laid out in a handy, readable format. It's important to cover the scroll with some kind of cover when there's a significant interval between readings. If just between aliyot, you can roll it back up, but it's helpful to have another cover ready, and you can use the cover that it wears normally. You don't necessarily need another special piece. But if there's some kind of big interval between readings, as for Mishaberach or the Kaddish before the Maftir, you should cover the scroll up. Kitzur covers some contingencies if the second to last aliyah is accidentally read all the way to the end of the parsha. So you would be put in a position of repeating. I'm a little confused though. Wouldn't you cut them off? Like ideally somebody is there as the gabbai who would hopefully cut the reader off before they read all the way to the end. But on some special occasions as well, you may need as many as 3 Sifrei Torah because readings for the day are scattered in different places. The Kitzur says to roll that first Torah, not the second one. Although in practice, I have to tell you, since we only own 2 scrolls in our congregation, we tend to go with rolling whichever one is closer to where we need to get, or sometimes whichever scroll needs to be rolled just to stay in good working order. That's all for today. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur, and the historic Jewish community of Uzhhorod, Ukraine. See you tomorrow.